Okay, so I don't normally make videos like this, but this F1 off-season has been so crazy when it comes to like drama or the car reveals. So I'm gonna make my first ever, well, not first ever F1 commentary video, but another F1 style video. Hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, let's dive into it. So this all started when Gunther Steiner, Haas team principal, was sacked by them last month actually. And it was a shock, but ultimately it was because he wanted Gene Haas to invest more in the team. Gene Haas didn't want to do that, so they parted ways. But no one had any idea what this would trigger, and it triggered a lot. And then another big story is that Lewis Hamilton will be a Ferrari driver in 2025. And it is nuts. Like, the 7-time world champion will be moving to the Scarlet Red team for the 2025 season. And he's on a multi-year contract as well, just like Charles. Obviously, he is replacing Carlos Sainz, and he is currently out of a seat as of the recording of this video, which is a shame, considering he brought Ferrari their only win, as well as the only non-Red Bull win last season. But hey, good for Lewis, I guess. But let's move on to some team names. So as you know, Sauber, or Alfa Romeo, as they were called for the past few years, everyone thought they were going to return back to the Sauber name, you know, just go back to the glory Sauber days in their final 2 years before they get taken over by Audi. You want to know what they named themselves? Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. I shit you not, that is their actual F1 team name, like the legal name entry they've assigned for themselves. It is Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. And at the time, everyone thought it was like the worst name ever. But AlphaTauri managed to one-up them. They called themselves... Can't believe they called themselves this. They called themselves Visa Cash App RB Formula 1 Team. Yeah, it's a fucking mess. It is absolutely dreadful. And like, I get it. Like, these teams, like, they want title sponsors to secure their futures. We get it. But the naming, they could have done so much better with those names. But the fact that they chose those horrendous names, oh my god, the state of F1 right now is... Another big news I was dropped was that Andretti was blocked by the Formula 1 management. Their entry bid for 2025 was blocked by FOM, and there was a huge uproar about that. I think this news came actually before the Lewis Hamilton news, actually. And conveniently, the next day, the Lewis Hamilton news dropped. So, make with that as you will. And finally, another piece of like relevant news is that there are serious allegations floating around at the moment against the Oracle Red Bull Racing team principal Christian Horner, who's been at the team since 2005, since I was a fucking baby, for goodness sake. But yeah, a female employee went up to the Red Bull Energy Drinks company and said that Christian did some inappropriate like behavior. So no one knows what the inappropriate behavior is, but as of right now, Red Bull are doing an investigation, and there's reports that a bunch of Red Bull employees have told him to leave voluntarily. You get what I'm trying to say. I'm having a fucking stroke. But yeah, point is, it doesn't look good for Christian Horner right now. But right, let's move on to the car reveals or the livery reveals, or lack thereof, and I'll get into the reason why. So, 3 days ago, Haas launched a new car, the VF24, and it looks like this. Yeah, it's shocking. It is an absolutely shocking livery. A huge downgrade to the 2023 car, it has to be said. Like, there's so much carbon now. I mean, the Haas logo on the side pod looks nice, and so is the MoneyGram logo on the engine cover. But apart from that, the car just looks boring. It looks bland. But funny enough, this would be one of the better liveries, as we're about to find out. But before we unveil those liveries, we must move on to Williams. And I have to say that this is the best livery by far. They've got a lot of sponsors as well on the car, like Komatsu and MyProtein. It's really, really nice. Komatsu was a title sponsor, but they weren't a title sponsor in the 90s, but they were a sponsor when Williams were winning championships. Yeah, the livery looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, there is some carbon fiber on there that's visible, but for the most part, the car is actually painted, which is really, really nice, and I'm glad Williams did that. It looks beautiful. It's the best livery so far. Moving on to Stake F1 Team. Now, you'd think with a team backed by a huge Australian gambling company that they would actually produce a really, really nice livery, mostly painted and with some professional colours. No, they fucking didn't. They came up with this shit. This is... I have no words for this. This is fucking awful. Like, I get it. Like, this livery has divided opinion on the internet. It's like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. I've seen a lot of mixed opinions on this livery, but personally, I fucking hate it. It looks absolutely awful. I do respect the fact that they have the Sauber name print on the front of the nose. I think that's really nice. But look how many times they just plastered the Stake logo across the car. Like, they don't need to advertise Stake this much. And in a world where gambling is becoming like such a serious issue, begs the question of why are these gambling companies still allowed to sponsor Formula 1 teams, or crypto for that matter, when they do ruin lives. But I don't know. At least this livery is shit. There's no defending this livery. It just looks awful. That lime green is obnoxious. I've sent this to a few of my fans and they've dubbed it the WhatsApp car. It looks absolutely awful. And it doesn't help that there's half of the car is just carbon fiber. Like, come on, guys. I get it. You need to save weight in order to get a few temps here and there, right? But you're some of the slowest teams on the grid anyway. There's no point trying to save weight. Give us an actual good livery. But if you think Stake F1 team's livery was bad, take a look at this monstrosity. Alpine. You know, I had such high hopes for Alpine. I really did. Their WEC car looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's 4D painted with the Alpine blue, with the reds, white on the rear of the car, and the rear lights are shaped to look like the Alpine logo as well. It looks absolutely beautiful. And then you got their F1 car, which looks like they've removed pretty much half of the paint which they had last year. This is basically last year's livery, but with a good 60% of the paint removed. It is bare minimum now, and they're still doing the double livery because they are still backed by BWT, and honestly, it's just as bad. You can barely make out the paint on it anymore. Now, I wasn't a fan of the pink Alpine anyway, but I would prefer it if it was 4D painted and not this shit. Like, there's an image online comparing the two cars, and oh my god. We all thought the 2023 car was like bare minimum, but this is next level bad. This is terrible. And it's just a shame that all of these teams are gonna like eventually go like to the carbon fiber look. Like, if it was a few years ago, it would have looked awesome, but because every single team is doing this now, it looks awful. It honestly does. And the way that some of these teams are doing it just doesn't look good at all. McLaren's livery actually doesn't look too bad. I actually kind of like McLaren's way they stylize it. It reminds me of the Marlboro McLaren from like the 70s to the 90s. Obviously, it's still got a shit ton of carbon fiber on it, but at least it looks decent. That's the only main carbon fiber livery I actually like. Stake, Alpine, get in the bin. It's absolutely awful. But yeah, that was my, I guess, quick analysis video on the F1 news that has been going around, and as well as the new liveries for the cars. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching, and until then, I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ra.